It's an annular event, but not an annual one. The specific type of eclipse that'll be visible across part of the United States tomorrow won't occur over America again until 2039. Okay, but what is it? For starters, a solar eclipse, when the moon passes between the sun and the earth. What makes this one unique and gives it the name annular is the fact that the moon will appear just a little smaller than the sun, creating a ring-like halo as it blocks the star's light. It's known as the Ring of Fire, and while everyone with clear weather in the contiguous United States can observe a partial eclipse, the full Ring of Fire effect will be visible in a belt stretching from Eugene, Oregon to Corpus Christi, Texas, before it heads to parts of Central and South America. Stateside, it all begins Saturday just after 9 a.m., and experts say it is not safe to look at it without eclipse glasses or special filters on telescopes and binoculars. They add, especially when it's darker outside, the sunlight from an eclipse can permanently damage our eyes in seconds. Welcome to the world from A to Z, where we're bringing you stories from London, Paris, and a sheep-streaked street in Washington state. I'm Carl Azus. Next story, the Middle East at war. Large sections of the Palestinian territory of Gaza have been reduced to ashes by Israeli airstrikes. They've been targeting Hamas, the Palestinian militant or terrorist group that launched last week's surprise attack against Israelis. Hamas is based in Gaza, where health officials say 1,400 people have been killed. Civilians have been caught in the crossfire.
I got married this year, says Yahya Lahwel. What did I do? What have we done? You destroyed an entire neighborhood. He says he never fired a rocket.
Those who did, along with the Hamas fighters who entered Israel, killed more than 1,300 people there, according to Israeli officials. Hamas denies targeting children and brutally murdering civilians, calling claims that it did lies and saying they're an attempt to cover up crimes committed by Israel. But Israeli soldiers and witnesses to last weekend's attacks say Hamas killed numerous women and children and took others as hostages. Hour by hour, this part of the world is increasingly looking like a war zone.
At a military base in southern Israel, columns of Israeli Merkava 4 tanks stand at the ready, awaiting orders for an invasion of Gaza that everyone expects, but no one has yet commanded. This is a country on a war footing.
The Israeli military has called up more than 300,000 reservists. It is one of the largest mobilization efforts in this country's history. And this right here behind me is that mobilization effort in action. You are witnessing thousands of reservists, Israelis from all across the country, coming to this military base in southern Israel to begin to prepare for the next phase of this military campaign.
But it's not just the scale that makes this mobilization different.
I've been in all the campaigns in the last 30 years. Never something like this.
For the soldiers converging on this base, the shocking brutality of Hamas's surprise terrorist attacks is still reverberating.
Every person in Israel has lost someone. Every person.
Driving down roads east of the Gaza Strip, preparations for the next phase of Israel's military campaign are everywhere. Trucks loaded with ammunition, armored vehicles, thousands of Israeli soldiers mobilizing, and just 7 miles from the Gaza border, this formation of armored personnel carriers. But amid the preparations for tomorrow's battle, today's is still very much alive.
On this date in world history. People sometimes ask, what's my favorite news story that I've reported on? One of them took place about 2 years after I started anchoring. There was an extraordinary rescue in the South American nation of Chile, and it was made on this date in 2010. There'd been a collapse at a gold and copper mine that August. 33 miners survived, but they were trapped nearly half a mile underground with no way to get out. They lived on emergency rations for weeks before rescuers were able to establish contact with them. Holes were drilled to get the miners fresh water, food, and medical supplies, but the 33 men would set a record for time spent trapped underground, 69 days before engineers were able to drill and reinforce a new tunnel to where the miners were. Over the course of a day on October 13th, all 33 workers were pulled to safety in a special metal capsule. The River Thames, which flows through the British capital of London, historically served as the city's sewer, and its contamination became so severe by the mid-1800s that a sewage system was designed then that's still in use today. Problem is, the city's population has dramatically increased since Victoria was queen, so a new tunnel system has been developed. It stretches underground for a length of 15.5 miles, and it came at a cost of around $6 billion.
We're leaving the River Thames behind and descending deep underground into London's newest megastructure, the Thames Tideway Tunnel. While engineers can still walk the tunnel for now, that won't be the case for long.
This will be filled with sewage, so we wouldn't want to be here. But this is it. This is kind of one small part of 25 kilometres of tunnel that snakes right under London.
The tunnel's route runs from West London to sewage treatment works on the Thames estuary. It's being built to deal with a major problem for London's iconic river. When it rains, the only overflow for the city's Victorian sewage system is the Thames. And as the city's grown, that's become a regular occurrence.
When the system was built, this happened quite infrequently, a couple of times a year perhaps. Now this happens an average of once a week. And so in a typical year, 40 million tonnes of storm sewage, which is sewage and rainwater, spills directly into the Thames.
Tunnelling was completed in 2022 after 7 years of work. When it becomes fully operational in 2025, it should remove 95% of the waste that currently goes into the Thames.
A word of knowledge. After being discontinued in the 1920s, which of these Olympic events was reintroduced for the 2016 Summer Games? Tug of war, obstacle swimming, rugby, cricket. The Olympics introduces, discontinues, and sometimes brings back events like rugby for the Games in Rio de Janeiro.
They call it kayak cross. Competitors take on a whitewater slalom course, paddling their way through gates and rapids, all trying to be faster than everyone else. Athletes say it's kind of similar to ski cross or maybe even BMX biking, but in the water. With a splash, 4 kayakers take off from an elevated start ramp. There are numerous gates, plenty of whitewater, a mandatory 360-degree roll when the athletes have to plunge sideways underwater and come back up on the other side. And the fastest across the finish line, without missing a gate, advance to the next round. Officials say the new event is a crowd pleaser, lots of literal twists and turns, plus surprises about who will finish first. Canoe slalom, a time trial through gates, made its Olympic debut in 1972, and it eventually became a regular fixture in the Games. Now it's the kayakers' turn. These athletes got to compete at a course near Paris recently. They were hoping for medals, possible sponsorships, and a lot more exposure for their sport. It'll make its Olympic debut here next summer, along with skateboarding, surfing, sport climbing, and breaking or breakdancing. For The World from A to Z, I'm Lindsay Wolfgang Mast.
Country roads. I can't really sing, but I can sing the praises of West Virginia because it's where Mr. Harmon's class is watching from Pikeview High School. It's in the city of Princeton. And over in the Bay State of Massachusetts, Mr. Swan's class is Swan Hour Show. Bigelow Middle School is in Newton. It can be a lot of work to get sheep where you want them to go. Turns out it can also look amazing. Check out this drone video of the woolly animals being herded by a couple folks in utility vehicles in Washington State. They moved them closer together, then to a different spot, then across a road. Someone else moved plastic fencing across the road to help them out. From the ground, everything looks pretty normal. One sheep even seems downright pumped about the trip. But the sped up video from above is kind of mesmerizing. They were totally on the lam. And when we say we're not sheepish about spinning a woolly good yarn, we're not trying to fleece you or make you hit the stop button before we livestock the show with a looming flock of really bad puns all rammed together in sheer sheep shape. Fridays are awesome. I'm Carl Azouz for The World from A to Z, and it's time for me to hoof it.